Hiber-Nation 13. Grizzly's Growls presents Stories from a Hiber-Nation. A handy guide for beggars, especially those of the poetic fraternity. Being sundry explorations made while afoot and penniless in Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. These adventures convey and illustrate the rules of beggary for poets and some others. By Vachel Lindsay. These are the rules of the road. Keep away from cities. Keep away from the railroads. Have nothing to do with money and carry no baggage. Ask for dinner about 11:15. Ask for supper, lodging, and breakfast about 5:15. Travel alone. Be neat, deliberate, chaste, and civil. Preach the gospel of beauty. And without further parley, let us proceed to inculcate these by illustration, precept, and dogma. Vachel Lindsay, Springfield, Illinois, November 1916. Part 1. Vagrant Adventures in the South. Man in the City of Callers, showing how an unexpected shock came to a civilized person, a not very tragic relapse into the toils of finance. Having been properly treated as a bunco man by systematic piety in a certain city further south, I had double-barreled special recommendations sent to a lofty benevolence in Asheville from a religious leader of New York, the before-mentioned Charles F. Paulison. It was with confidence that I bade goodbye to the chicken merchant who drove me into the city. I entered the office of the black-coated semi-clerical gentleman who had received the Paulison endorsements. My stick pounded his floor. The heels of my brogans made the place resound, but he gave me all official privileges. He received me with the fine, manly handclasp, the glitter of teeth, the pat on the back. He insisted I use the shower bath, the writing room, reading table, and then I suggested a conference among a dozen of his devouter workers on the relation of the sense of beauty to their present notion of Christianity, or, if he preferred, a talk on some aspect of art to a larger group. He took me into his office. He shut the door. He was haughty. He made me haughty. I give the conversation as it struck me. He probably said some smart things I do not recall, but I remember all the smart things I said. He denounced labor agitators in plain words. I agreed. I belong to the brotherhood of those who loaf and invite their souls. He spoke of anarchy. I maintained that I loved the law. He very clearly and at length assaulted single tax. I knew nothing then of single tax, and thanked him for the light. He denounced socialism. Knowing little about socialism at the time, I denounced it also, having just been converted to individualism by a man in the Highlands. The religious leaker spoke of his long experience with bunco men. I insisted I wanted not a cent from him. I was there to do him good. I had letters of introduction to 2 men in the city. One of them, an active worker in the organization, had already been in to identify me. A third man was coming to climb Mount Mitchell with me. He doubted that I was a bona fide worker in his organization. Then came my only long speech. We will omit the speech, but he began to see light. He took a fresh grip on his argument. He said, "There is a man here in Asheville I see snooping around with a tin box and a butterfly net. They call him the state somethingologist. He goes around and hunts bugs. But do you want to know what I think of a crank like that?" I wanted to know. He told me. But, I objected, I'm not a scientist. I'm an art student. He expressed an interest in art. He gave a pious and proper view of the nude in art. It took some time. It was the sort of chilly, cautious talk that could not possibly bring a blush to the cheek of ignorance. I assured him his decorous concessions were unnecessary. I was not expounding the nude. There was an artist here, and Asheville needed no further instruction of the kind, he maintained. The gentleman had won some blue ribbons in Europe. He painted a big picture, dimensions were given, and sold it for thousands. Price was given. He sold him the next one 2 feet longer each way for double the money. I told him if he felt there was enough art in Asheville, we might do something to popularize the poets. In reply, he talked about literary cranks. He spoke of how Thoreau, with his long hair and ugly looks, frightened strangers who suddenly met him in the woods. I thanked him for light on Thoreau, but he had to admit that my hair was short. He suspected I was neither artist nor literary man. I assured him my friends were often of the same opinion. "But," he said bitterly, "do you know, sir, by the tone of letters I received from Mr. Powlison, I expected you to assemble the wealth and fashion of Asheville to hear you. I expected to see you first in your private car, wearing a dress suit." I answered sternly, "Art, my friend, does not travel in a Pullman." He threw off all restraint. "Old shoes," he said, "old shoes." He pointed at them. I have walked 200 miles among the moonshiners, and they wear brogans like these. But his manner plainly said that his organization did not need cranks climbing over the mountains to tell them things. "Your New York letter did not say you were walking. It said you would arrive." He began to point again. "Frayed trousers, and the lining of your coat is in rags." Well, I took the lining of the coat for necessary patches. "A blue bandana around your neck," to protect me from sunburn. "And no collar." He rose and hit the table. "Oh, yes, I have a collar." I drew it from my hip pocket. It had had a 200-mile ride and needed a bath. "I should like to have it laundered, but I haven't got the money." "Well, get money." "No, but I will get a collar." I entered a furnishing and tailor shop around the corner. I asked for the proprietor. He showed me collars. "2 for a quarter." "Yes." "Well, now I have here a little brochure I sell for 25 cents. In fact, it is a poem, well worth the money. I will let you have it for half price. That is 1 collar." "Well, we're selling collars." "I'm selling the poem." I turned my ancient mariner eye on him. I recited the most mesmeric rhymes. He repeated, We are selling collars." Evidently, the eye was out of order. I tried argument. "But don't you think I need a collar?" "Yes." "Don't you think this one would fit this shirt?" "Yes." I renew my offer. He sternly put the box away. So I said, "If I must face my friends in Asheville without this necessary arrangement, you shall blush. I have done my duty, and I refuse to blush." I looked up a scholar from Yale, Yutaka Minakuchi, friend of old friends, a student of philosophy in which he instructed me much, first lending me a collar. He became my host in Asheville. It needs no words of mine to enhance the fame of Japanese hospitality. And I had a friend in a distant place, whom for fancy's sake we shall call the Caliph Harun al-Rashid. Let him remain a mystery. We will reveal this much. Had he known the truth, he would have sent Greek slaves riding on elephants, laden with changes of raiment. He discerned, at least, that I was in a barbarous land. For at length a long package containing a sword arrived from the court of the Caliph. To speak in parables, I exchanged the weapon at a pawn shop for money, all in one bill. Money, against which I had so many times sworn eternal warfare, which had been my hoodoo in the past, but was destined to be again. But this time, such are the whims of fate, the little while it was with me, it brought me only good. I entered the furnishing store. The proprietor was terribly busy, but my glittering eye was in condition. I persuaded him by dint of repetition to show me his callers. I treated them as though we had not met. 15 cents apiece. Yes. Well, I will take one. I gave the bill. He had to send out a boy for the change. I put the silver in my pocket and rattled it. He wrapped up the color while I studied his cheeks. He blushed like a maid, bless his tender heart, and in his sweet confusion he knew that I knew it. The streets of Asheville kept shouting to me, "Let us praise man when he builds cities and grows respectable and cringes to money and becomes a tailor and loves callers with all his heart." Confucius. Would we were scholars of Confucius' time, watching the feudal China crumbling down, frightening our master, shaking many a crown, until he makes more firm the father sages, restoring custom from the earliest ages, with prudent sayings, golden as the sun. Lord, show us safe, august, established ways. Fill us with yesterdays. Thanks for listening to Stories from the Hiber-Nation. Comment on the website at grizzly.libsyn.com. This program is sponsored by donations from people like you and is released with a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license.